UFC 294 is upon us. Big pay-per-view card, lots of opportunities. Let's make some money this week. At the top of the card, we have our main event, Islam Makhachev, Alexander Volkanovski 2, a rematch and a fight that is frankly tougher than the fight that he had scheduled against Charles Oliveira. I know. But Volk proved to be a tough fight for Makhachev last time out, and based on how that fight went, if you're an Islam fan, aka if you're defending Khabib's legacy on Twitter every night, then you're probably a little bit worried about the rematch, because in the first fight, Volkanovski did a great job of surviving on the ground. He finished the fight strong. He showcased solid takedown defense at different points of that fight against the best grappler in the division, possibly the best grappler in all of MMA. Some thought he won that fight, and if you believe that, I'm not mad at you, but for as much success as Volkanovski had, Islam Makhachev did well in all areas too. He did get the takedowns, he took Volkanovski's back, he landed hard strikes on the feet, and he showcased toughness late. And we don't need to comb through all of their other fights because we already know what we're going to get from these guys. Two of the most well-rounded fighters on the roster going head up once again. Here's where I'm at with the fight. To me, Islam Makhachev doesn't seem like the type of fighter who's going to lose a rematch. He felt what Volkanovski could do. He went back and watched the tape, and he knows what works and what's probably not going to work. Not only that, but this is worst case scenario for Alexander the Great. He was preparing for a featherweight boxer in Elliott, and now he has to make the walk, make the weight in Abu Dhabi on short notice to fight the only man who's turned him back in the UFC. Not good. This is not neutral territory. This is not a full camp. This is not a good situation for Alexander Volkanovski. And not only that, but you're getting better odds on the champion this time around than you did in the last time in a better situation. So I love Islam Makhachev in this fight given the circumstances. I expect to see an even more complete performance from the champion this time around. I still think that Volkanovski sees the final bell, but I think Islam Makhachev is going to win the rounds more convincingly this time around. Give me Islam Makhachev to win this fight by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight with Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev, and man, oh man, is this the test you wanted to see for Khamzat Chimaev. I wish we got Marty on a full camp, I really do, but he isn't cutting to 170 pounds, so I expect him to come out and still look like himself. And he's going to need to look like himself because Khamzat Chimaev has been a destroyer in MMA. He's undefeated. He's finished 11 out of the 12 men that they've put in front of him. Most of these wins have been in the first round, and a lot of it's just coming on the basis of his grappling. His wrestling is elite. He moves like a bantamweight, and the confidence that he's approaching these fights with is something we've never seen before. We've seen confidence before. We've seen Conor McGregor. We've seen Paddy Pimblett, but when these guys get in the octagon, it turns into all business. But not for Khamzat. Khamzat's like playing the game on easy mode. He's in there, he's smiling, he's excited when the fight gets started because he knows he's going to go in there, take you down, smash you, and choke you out. The wolf always eat. Now, the only man to not be submitted or knocked out cold on the feet by Khamzat Chimaev was Gilbert Burns. He didn't want to take Gilbert Burns down. I didn't know if that was an ego thing. I didn't know if that was a game plan thing, trying to stay away from that jiu-jitsu. But either way, he didn't want Burns on the ground, and as a result, he had to stand and bang. He won that fight, not without controversy, because Gilbert Burns was touching him up. On the other side, we have one of the best to ever do it in Kamaru Usman, longtime welterweight champion. This will only be the second time in his UFC career that you can get him at underdog money, and he had a dominant run for years at the top of the 170-pound division. He was knocking guys out, Gilbert Burns included. He was dominating with his wrestling, and eventually the run came to an end via Leon Edwards' head kick that shocked the world. But there are a few things that I like for Kamaru Usman in this fight. I like the takedown defense. Khamzat Chimaev has been able to shoot for double leg takedowns on anybody he wants. If he shoots on Kamaru Usman, he's getting Nigerian hips down his throat. I also like the cardio from Kamaru Usman. Elite cardio, 5-round cardio, 5-round championship experience on the biggest stages. So if this fight gets extended, I do see Usman having a better third round than Khamzat Chimaev. What I don't like are how bad Kamaru Usman's knees are. There are people on my 600-pound life with better knees than Kamaru Usman. The man's knees are dust. When Kamaru Usman squats to use the toilet, his knees probably sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies. Now, what we like for Khamzat Chimaev is always the wrestling. You're always going to like the wrestling, that's a given. But what's more sneaky, what's more important in this fight to me is the hand speed. We've seen Khamzat Chimaev let him fly, and when he does damage. Now, Usman has a strong, stiff jab, but he's not blowing anybody away with his speed. This might be an opportunity for us to see Khamzat Chimaev strike again like he did against Gilbert Burns, but maybe he has more success because he has the edge in speed. And I know Usman's stepping in on short notice. I know the line is a bit wide, but we have to acknowledge that this is a huge step up for Chimaev. This is not Kevin Holland, who took this fight on a day's notice with notorious notoriously bad takedown defense. This isn't John Phillips, Reese McKee, Gerald Mearshart, or Li Jing Liang, and this is certainly not Gilbert Burns, and Kamaru Usman is so much better than anybody that Khamzat Chimaev has faced. And who knows, with a win here, he might find himself in title contention, so call me crazy, but I'm going for Nebraska's own Marty Fake Newsman himself. Give me Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare. I walk down the stairs backward. I will take him to win this fight by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight with Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. It's not whiskey. It's knockout power. Johnny Walker's on a 3-fight winning streak, and we all saw when he came into the UFC what he was. He's bigger than you, he's faster than you, he hits harder than you, and he started his UFC career with 3 wins that all combined for less than 3 minutes total. The media was telling John Jones to run for the hills. You don't want no part of this guy.
We're smoking reefer. And you don't want no part of this shit.
That's how scary Johnny Walker was looking at the beginning of his UFC run. But after those first 3 fights, we saw him struggle against some of the better guys in the division. But in the last year, it looks like he's really putting things together. Even last time out, he completely outclassed Anthony Smith. And it was the first time that we saw Johnny Walker look like a complete mixed martial artist in there. The maturation has been impressive from Johnny Walker. I'll say that. Now, on the other side, you got Magomed Ankalaev. He been good. He's coming off of a split draw to Jan Blachowicz, where he really struggled with the leg kicks early on in that fight. He dominated with control in the championship rounds, but it was too little too late. But outside of that fight, he's looked great in the UFC because he does everything well. He makes really good choices in there, and he keeps everything nice and tight. You're not going to see Magomed Ankalaev make too many mistakes. We've truly only seen him rocked once in the UFC, and that was against Thiago Santos in a fight where he ended up winning. Now, at times in his fights, the pace could be a bit slow, but he's still finishing a lot of these fights, and he's not looking for the kill shot, but he's letting it come to him, and that steadiness should serve him well this week. And that's true if Johnny Walker is the Johnny Walker of old. If we get the crazy car crash style from Johnny Walker, then yes, Magomed Ankalaev is going to counter him, knock him out. It's probably going to be early. But if we get a measured Johnny Walker who's using all those physical tools that he has, I think we could see Walker steal the number 2 ranking here. And because of the way that he's looked lately, and because he has more ways to win, in my opinion, I like Johnny Walker in this fight. I really like the leg kicks for him as well. At 6'6", his legs can cover some serious distance. Blachowicz nearly kicked Ankalaev's legs off last time out. And look at what Walker was doing to Smith in that fight. He landed 51 of 56 leg kicks, nearly stopped the fight with his leg kicks, and completely shut down the lower half of Anthony Smith. So give me the size, give me the better athlete, give me the power, give me the low kicks, give me Johnny Walker to win this fight. I think he wins by decision. At the time of recording this, I don't have the line for Johnny Walker by decision, but we're definitely hitting that with the official betting guide this week. You can find all of it, official betting guide, DFS strategy guide, and more on KunithMMA.com. You'll see that linked in the description. There should also be a QR code somewhere on the screen. Oscar, if you don't put it on the screen, no dinner, I promise. And not like the typical 3 days a week no dinner. I'm going to bump you up to 5. And I'll chain you to the radiator like Black Snake Moan. Do not forget to put that QR code on the screen. Now in this next fight, we're looking at Ikram Aliskerov. He's fighting Warlley Alves. I typically don't care how much money fighters make. I really don't. It seems like so many people are so invested in fighter pay. I understand where you're coming from. I get it. Personally, I don't worry about it too much. However, this is different. I hope they are backing up that Brinks truck for Warlley Alves this week because he's a dead man. Ikram Aliskerov is a problem. The dude can truly do it all. He showed off his grappling chops on the Contender Series where he picked up a quick submission. We saw him lay out Phil Hawes like a tablecloth on Thanksgiving last time out. Serious accuracy in his hands. He can grapple with anyone. The only loss in his career is to Khamzat Chimaev. No shame in that. It happens to a lot of people. He's one of the biggest favorites on the card, and it's for good reason. He very well may be one of the best fighters in the division. I see him packing up Warlley Alves early. And by early, I mean round 1, second round by the latest, but I like Ikram Aliskerov to get it done this week by knockout. Next, we're looking at a fight with Said Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov, another mismatch. Said Nurmagomedov is an assassin. The dude is slick, not only on the feet where he strikes well at all levels and throws great kicks, but when he's forced to grapple, he can snatch up chokes in a flash. He lost last time out to Jonathan Martinez in a very close and competitive fight, but prior to that, he was riding a 4-fight winning streak, and the guy is an animal. Tajikistan's own Muin Gafurov, on the other hand, I haven't been overly impressed with. We saw him lose to Chad Anheliger on the Contender Series where he was dropped in that fight. We saw him get worked last time out in his UFC debut against John Castaneda. He doesn't appear to have a great chin, and I think if he turns this into a grappling match, he's going to end up getting choked out. Said Nurmagomedov throws that ninja choke in there fire fast. He's got those long, slender arms, great leverage, and I do think that he can outstrike this guy if he wants to as well. So give me Saeed Nurmagomedov however he wants, inside the distance. The line ain't wide enough.
Write that down. I don't have a pencil. I'll remember that then.
In this next fight, we're looking at Mohammad Mokaev and Tim Elliott. Big age gap here. Tim Elliott's almost 37 years old. Mohammad Mokaev is 23 years old. Phenom at 23 years old is Mohammad Mokaev. Undefeated as a pro, undefeated as an amateur with a long, extensive amateur record. He's as good as a grappler can be in MMA. He hasn't shown us any reason to think any differently, and he's not one of these guys with a shiny record who's going to get fraud checked anytime soon. Not going to happen. Even last time out, it was like a trap game. It was a trap game against Jafel Filio, a guy who's tough on the ground. He gets caught in a knee bar, and that knee bar would have made anybody else on the roster tap. I assure you of that. He gutted it out because the win meant more than the knee, and while that doesn't seem like the smartest thing to do, that just tells you where his head is at. Mohammad Mokaev is in there to win, no matter what. He's been able to have his way with anybody that the UFC has put in front of him when it comes to his wrestling, and I see him doing the same thing against Tim Elliott in this fight. Tim Elliott is slippery, he's savvy, he's going to be looking for takedowns of his own to test this kid probably early, but I don't see Tim Elliott winning fights against the better fighters in the division at this stage in his career. The line is justifiably wide. Now, I don't see Tim Elliott being taken out easy, but I do see him getting put in bad positions this week, and as he tries to scramble out of bad positions, he's going to face somebody who can keep up with him. Tim Elliott beating you from one position to the next is his bread and butter, but now you have Mohammad Mokaev, who is going to be able to do those same things that Tim Elliott's doing, just faster and with more power. Since Mokaev can match that pace during those exchanges, I do think that he wins here. Fun fight on paper, should be a fun fight to watch. It's not a spot you need to overthink. Mokaev wins. If you want a better line, you would take the prop, and the prop in this fight would be decision. I like Mohammad Mokaev to win this fight on the judges' scorecards. Next, we're looking at a fight with Javid Basharat and Victor Henry. I like Javid Basharat against most guys that the UFC can match him up with right now. He does everything very, very well. He's got great length, he knows how to use it, he knows how to wrestle, and he makes guys fight at his pace. You have to play Javid Basharat's game. Now, Victor Henry is interesting because he is an output monster, and he could force Javid Basharat to be a bit uncomfortable in this fight by having to fight at a pace that he's not used to fighting at. While I can respect that, I think that Victor Henry can make this fight uncomfortable for Basharat early. I don't think he has enough tools in the toolbox to do serious damage. He doesn't have the one-shot knockout power that's going to help him get a lot of respect from Basharat, and he's not going to be able to win the grappling exchanges here. If anything, I think that he's going to get out-grappled. We saw Rafael Sunsao have a lot of success against him by taking him down, controlling the pace of the fight, and that's exactly what Javid Basharat brings to the table. That's why he's going to win this fight. He's going to use his length when they're on the feet. When the fight gets closer, when Victor Henry's pouring it on, he's going to take him down, and he's going to stay in a dominant position. If Victor Henry had more of an offensive wrestling game here, I'd give him more of a chance, because I do think that if they strictly kickbox, he's going to be able to edge him out when it comes to the volume. But I do think that Javid Basharat is eventually going to be able to get Victor Henry to the ground, ride out the control time, ride out the rest of the rounds, and he's going to win on the judges' scorecards that way. So give me Javid Basharat to win this fight by decision. And if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and we'll do a giveaway at 5,000 subs. 5,000 subs, we're almost there. Giveaway at 5,000 subs, I'll just send you some money. How about that?
How about that?
Next, we're looking at a fight with Muhammad Yahya and Trevor Peek. When you watch a Trevor Peek fight, when you watch just the technique, what stands out to you most, or what you probably think is,
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
but the results are there, despite the revisionist history that you'll find on DraftKings where it shows nothing in the L column. He lost last time. But he's knocking dudes dead in the fights that he's winning, and he's got unusual power and even more unusual technique. Last time out, he lost to Chepe Mariscal. We all know that Chepe Mariscal is a junkyard dog who outclassed Trevor Peek in that fight. He ate huge shots that would sleep lesser men, but he got it done. Now, the positives that we can pull from that performance for Peek is that he showed a lot of toughness. On top of that, he didn't fight well when he was tired. I wouldn't say that he's one of these guys that keeps it tight and looks good and is able to keep it popping and keep it moving even when he's gassed. He fought poorly when he was gassed, but what he did do was he remained dangerous even when he was tired, and that's something that we really like to see. When you see most of these guys get tired, not only is the technique out the window, but now they're no longer trying to finish fights. It's not dangerous for their opponent anymore. Trevor Peek is still throwing with bad intentions, even if he looks like he's throwing punches out of his pocket, still with bad intentions. I'm enjoying this. You having fun? I'm having fun with you. Sorry it's been so long. It's been like a month. I'm having a good time. I hope you're having a good time. Now, on the other side, Muhammad Yahya Yahya is going to be looking to counter-strike, which is a great strategy against somebody like Trevor Peek, who's going to overextend, he's going to overswing, and he's going to leave a lot of openings. What stands out to me in this fight, however, is that he hasn't faced great competition. And Trevor Peek hasn't faced great competition largely, so I'm not too worried about the difference in competition, but I am really worried about preparation. How on earth do you prepare for somebody like Trevor Peek in the gym? You can't find somebody to emulate his style because he has no style, and nobody's going to punish you. Nobody's going to hit you that hard in sparring in the gym. So if you're in the gym working on tight, crisp technique, and here comes Trevor Peek fighting you like he's drunk, but when he hits you, it feels like Francis Ngannou, I think that Trevor Peek is going to starch this guy. Chepe Mariscal was able to counter a lot and use great in and out movement, but he also had to eat a lot of shots. Each round, he was eating big shots. Not many people can do that. That is a different kind of toughness, and I'm going to bank on the idea or the thought that Muhammad Yahya is not going to be bringing that Chepe Mariscal chin to the table. So give me the power, give me the Waffle House fighting style, give me Trevor Peek to win this fight. I believe he wins by knockout. Next we have a striker's delight, maybe. Sedriques Dumas is fighting Abu Azaitar, and these guys are in very different positions, different points in their career. SD Dumas is a long, rangy striker who's still very young in this game, young in his fighting career, and this will be his third fight in the UFC. He's the slight favorite here. On the other side, Abu Azaitar is old. He has not been in action for a very long time, and he's most certainly out of his fighting prime. He's famous for having some guys scale the side of a building to bring him potatoes in a suspicious bag. Now, I picked Dumas to lose in his UFC debut against Josh Fremd, and then I picked him to win against Cody Brundage. We're 2-0 on SD Dumas fights, and we got to keep that momentum. We got to go 3-0 here, and I'm fairly confident on the pick in this fight. I like SD Dumas to knock this man out. Dumas is much taller. He's longer, he's faster, he's more athletic, he's improving, whereas Abu Azaitar hasn't won a fight in over 5 years. He's pulled out of more fights that he's competed in the last 7 years, and he hasn't recorded a knockout in MMA since Barack Obama was in office. The last time we saw him in action, he got demolished by Marc-Andre Barriault, where he gassed that he just got beat up. I see Dumas being the fresher fighter later in this fight, giving Azaitar all kinds of issues at range and knocking him out at some point. Dumas is still very green. He's there to be hit. The crowd is going to want to see him go down, but I think he's going to hop on that long ass flight, handle his business, and look good in the process. If this was Abu Azaitar from 6 years ago, I would pick him to win by knockout. Hopefully he lands a counter shot and this younger guy gets exposed, but I think at this point in his career, I don't see Abu Azaitar winning too many fights. He could surprise me this week, but I like Sedriques Dumas to win this fight by knockout. The streak pushes to 3. Next, we're looking at a fight with Anshul Jubli. He's fighting Money Mike Breeden. Jubli is coming off a win in his debut over Jekka Saragi, where everyone and their mother had Jekka Saragi, and he did us dirty. I expected Saragi to win by knockout the same way everybody else did. Jubli was all over this dude in that fight. He was able to get takedowns with ease, smash Saragi with his ground and pound. He made it look easy. Here he is again. He is a massive favorite in this fight, and I get it because Mike Breeden is winless in 3 UFC fights. So you have to ask yourself, are we going to see something that we've never seen before? Are we going to see Mike Breeden win in the UFC? I don't know. Last time out, his performance against Terrence McKinney was pathetic. It was a pathetic showing. He refused to fight back, and he got cleaned up in the first round. He didn't look like a UFC fighter, frankly. Now he's got to face a younger, hungry, undefeated prospect who's looking to make a name for himself on the prelims of a massive pay-per-view card, probably the most viewed pay-per-view card of the year. And from a business perspective, I don't know if Mike Breeden would even stay in the UFC if he were to win here, so I think there's a lot working against my guy Money Mike this week, who I've just believed in the past too many times. We've seen Mike Breeden getting taken down a lot in the UFC, and I like for Jubli to take him down here early, take him down often, land strikes from a dominant position, and finish him late with ground and pound. Give me the king of the lions. Give me Anshul Jubli to win this fight by TKO. Next, we're looking at Nathaniel Wood and Muhammad Naimov. Featherweight Nathaniel Wood is on a 3-fight win streak. He dominated Charles Rosa, which was expected, but then he beat Charles Jourdain by leaning on his wrestling, maintaining that high output, and last time out, he went to war with Andre Fili, where both guys had success, but Wood was able to land better strikes in crucial moments and win rounds that way. You gotta like the takedowns, the volume, the level of competition, and really the will to win out of Nathaniel Wood that he's shown in these UFC fights. Now on the other side, Muhammad Naimov is coming off a win in his UFC debut, a knockout win on short notice, up a weight class against Jamie Mullarkey. Clap it up for him. He was the parlay buster in a big way that night, cashing as a plus 350 underdog. Crazy stuff. I think he's going to stick out to a lot of people this week because of what they saw last time out, but I don't like the matchup for him here. If you put him in there against other strikers, he's going to look great, but his takedown defense is not good. The man goes down easier than a glass of chocolate milk. And Nathaniel Wood's been securing takedowns in most of his fights in the UFC. Now, I'd like to take an underdog shot here on Naimov, but he's more of a DraftKings play, which we'll talk about in the final picks video later in the week, but I don't want to put too much stock into a win over Jamie Mullarkey realistically. I know that it shocked everybody last time out, but in hindsight, Jamie Mullarkey is very hittable, and if the judges knew what they were looking at, Jamie Mullarkey would not be 5-4 in the UFC, he'd be 3-6 in the UFC. So give me the tried and true Nathaniel Wood to add to the win streak this week, lean on his wrestling, grind out a decision on the judges' scorecards. I like Nathaniel Wood to win this fight by decision. Next, we have another big age gap on the card here. 38-year-old Jinyu Fry versus Victoria Dudakova, who's only 24 years of age. I have a hard time making a case for Jinyu Fry in this fight, and she's had a rough go in the UFC. You can argue that she is one of those fighters that got to the big show after her prime. She was an Invicta champion, but at atom weight. The UFC's lowest weight class is strawweight. She's 2-5 in the promotion. Those wins are over Gloria DePaula, who has a professional record of 6-6, and Ashley Yoder, who sits at a shiny 8-9 as a pro. And her struggles are coming from being physically outmatched. Her output hasn't been great, and she's older, so naturally you expect that to slow down a little bit. I see Victoria Dudakova being able to get takedowns in every round for as long as this fight goes, and I see her getting a finish in either the second or the third from top position. Jinyu Fry is hard to put away, I will give her that, but I do see her breaking at some point as this fight goes on, so give me the Gator rolling undefeated prospect. I will take the Russian. I will take Dudakova to win this fight inside the distance. And in the first fight of the night, we have Bruno Silva versus Shara Magomedov, Shara Bullet. This being the first fight of the night is insane, a true treat. Bruno Silva is a knockout artist of the highest order, and Shara Bullet is cut from that same cloth. Bruno Silva's got 20 knockouts, he's never been knocked out himself, and he carries his power late into these fights. Now on the other side, Shara Bullet has won 10 of 11 of his MMA fights by knockout. Someone's going down here. It's probably in the first round. I don't see a feeling out process in this fight. I think these two are going to go at it like cats in an alley right away. Choosing a winner in this fight is tough because this is a situation where Bruno Silva gets exactly what he needs to be successful. He's going to get a guy who wants to strike, he wants to stand and bang with him, and he'll be right in front of him. And most of Silva's losses are by submission. He doesn't even need to worry about takedowns this week. And Magomedov is more aggressive than a Popeyes employee, so he's going to leave openings for Silva to land that big power. But I do believe that Magomedov has a deeper bag when it comes to the striking. Much better kicks, spinning technique, edge and speed. And a lot of what this fight boils down to for me is that Shara Bullet is younger. He's had fewer fights. He's taken less damage. Bruno Silva got dropped by Gerald Meerschaert.
I repeat things for emphasis. Emphasis!
He was also dropped by Brendan Allen, and he's coming into this fight with a negative striking differential on paper, which means he's getting hit more than he's landing strikes of his own. And brothers, listen to me when I tell you this. I feel like a putz taking a debuting fighter against Bruno Silva in a fight where he gets what he wants, but I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on Shara Bullet. I'm sorry. I have my boarding pass for the Magomedov hype train, and I may even hit the cafe car on the ride. I'll take the $9 Twix and the coffee that will certainly spill in my lap at some point during the trip. Give me Shara Bullet Magomedov to win this fight by knockout. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. It feels great to be back. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how the algorithm works, and I'll see you later in the week.